Are we gonna get it now?
Yeah.
Are we gonna sock it to it now?
Yeah.
Are we gonna die for our freedom?
Yeah.
Are we gonna cry for our freedom?
Yeah.
And then we gonna get our freedom?
Yeah.
Are you ready, say?
Yeah.
Sock it to a freedom fighter, ooh, ah. Sock it to a freedom fighter, ooh, ah. Sock it to a freedom fighter, ooh, ah. Hey, sock it to a freedom fighter.
In 1967, Father James E. Groppi, a white Catholic priest in the inner city, pushed for fair housing in Milwaukee and stood up against racist citizens and a mayor who ignored the needs of the city's impoverished black residents. Groppi's stance influenced those in Washington, D.C., and helped change a nation. The Fair Housing Act made it illegal to refuse to sell, rent, or negotiate with anyone because they are in a protected class.
Black people in Milwaukee, they were forced to live in a certain area. They couldn't rent houses or buy houses outside of that area.
According to Frank Okafor, the author of A City with a Chance, it was during his seminary years that Father Groppi began developing an empathy with the black poor. He worked summers at a youth center in Milwaukee's inner core. It was there that he saw the social suffering and ostracism that Negroes live with every day. Groppi was assigned to St. Boniface Parish, where he preached to a primarily black congregation. According to the Wisconsin Historical Society, this is where he became engulfed in the suffering that the African Americans of his church had to endure. He participated in the 1963 March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. In 1965, Groppi joined the march from Selma to Montgomery, a nonviolent 54-mile protest that lasted 5 days and ended on the steps of the Alabama Capitol. The goal was equal voting rights for African Americans, which led to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Groppi returned to Milwaukee and continued to act toward civil rights for citizens of Milwaukee. He was appointed to the advisor of the Milwaukee chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP Youth Council.
His legacy is most pronounced by the way that he worked with young people to actually seek to alter systemic racism and making sure to put the voices and the ideas and the energy of young people at the forefront of the movement.
On October 4th, 1966, Father Groppi announced that the Youth Council had formed a nonviolent but militant commando force to aid in the group's civil rights activism.
Our job as commandos was to protect the marchers. When people attacked the marchers, the police helped them. Police would get in there and start beating up, instead of protecting us doing our constitutional rights and marching up and down the street. They would get in there and start beating up the kids. And so that's why the commandos was formed. Commandos had a creed, two things. They were nonviolent as long as you didn't touch the marchers or them. If you touch them, I don't care if you're police or whatever you are, you just had a fight on your hands.
Nearly all of Milwaukee's Negroes lived in the northern part of Milwaukee in a 1-mile square created by West Wright, West Kilbourne, North 3rd, and North 12th Street. That was the space that made up the inner core.
If you talk about the north side of Milwaukee, that's really the ghetto of Milwaukee.
On August 23, 1967, the Youth Council came forward with a plan to gain equal housing rights.
Today for a number of reasons. One is to announce that we are going to march again on the south side this evening. We're going to begin here at the Freedom House at 6 o'clock, and we're going to take the same route that we took last night. We're going across the Mason-Dixon line, that's the 16th Street Viaduct, down to Lincoln Avenue, and again to Kosciuszko Park.
Locals said that viaduct was the longest bridge in the world because it connected Africa, the black neighborhoods in Milwaukee, to Poland, the white neighborhoods in Milwaukee. They would march until the mayor implemented a fair housing law. Throughout their marches, the marchers were often met by thousands of angry Southsiders who yelled racial slurs and threw objects such as rocks, garbage, and fireworks at them. Father Groppi received thousands of angry letters from angry counter-protesters and angry people from throughout the United States.
She said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going out there She says, why? And for the life of me, I don't know why. But I know I had to go out there. So I ended up getting my head busted and put in jail.
Tension between the marchers and the Milwaukee government resulted in the burning of the Freedom House, the marchers' headquarters.
But they started to throw tear gas bombs. They flooded the whole area with tear gas and threw them inside the house. This whole block was covered with tear gas, and police shot their rifles off up in the air and made everyone scatter. And we were on 14th Street, and then we noticed the house was on fire. It started apparently from a tear gas bomb. Prentice was across the street here. He says it was a fire bomb. I don't know. They filled the house with tear gas. That's what started the fire. The policemen burned the place down. We have tried every means possible to bring fair housing legislation to the city of Milwaukee. And we're going to continue to march. It's up to the government of this city and of this state to see to it that we can exercise our constitutional right of freedom of speech. And we're going to exercise that, regardless of what the danger. We'll die for that right.
Well, I got jailed, I got beat, I got shot up, I got shot at. I got harassed to the point where I lost my family because my telephone was constantly ringing with threats and stuff like that.
In response to the violence, the mayor implemented a ban on marches for 30 days. Father Groppi responded by claiming that that ban was unconstitutional and that they had the right to march peacefully. Father Groppi was arrested repeatedly, along with other marches, for defying the ban. As the protests continued, the marchers gained national attention. Martin Luther King Jr. sent Father Groppi a telegram that said, "Your actions inspire me deeply. What you and your courageous associates are doing in Milwaukee will certainly serve as a kind of massive nonviolence that we need in this turbulent period. You are demonstrating that it is possible to be militant and powerful without destroying life or property. Please know that you have my support and prayers." On April 4th, 1968, a few days after the marches ended, Dr. King was assassinated. Father Groppi, marching for civil rights, states that while riots occurred in many cities across the country, Groppi kept people calm and led a peaceful march of over 15,000 people in honor of Dr. King. No riots took place in Milwaukee. Ernesto Chasson, the leader of Latin America Union for Civil Rights, describes Father Groppi as the leader that woke up the whole city of Milwaukee to the injustices that the people suffered. Not only did he wake up the whole city of Milwaukee, he woke up our nation. On February 6, 1968, Senator Walter Mondale of Minnesota gave an impassioned speech on the need for fair housing in every community in every state across America. His role model was Father James E. Groppi. He sent a letter to Father Groppi in which he said, "Your contribution to this effort, whether we are defeated or are successful, has been most significant, and I do appreciate it." In his address to the United States Senate, Mondale said, "In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a white Catholic priest, Father James Groppi, has led more than 100 marches demanding the enactment of a strong open housing law." Mondale said Groppi's message is our nation's message. There is no longer any economic, political, moral, or other justification for segregated housing. Just 6 weeks later, on April 11th, 1 week after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, President Johnson finally passed the Fair Housing Act, which protected all people regardless of their race or religion from discrimination in the sale or rental of a dwelling. Today, Father Groppi's accomplishment is honored with a bridge in Milwaukee that perfectly describes his fight, the James E. Groppi Unity Bridge. That was a viaduct he bravely led thousands of marchers across to protest racial discrimination. The measures he took to secure equal housing were also honored with the Passman-Terrace Peace and Freedom Award, which is an award given to honor a person for their achievements in peace and justice, not only in their country, but the world.